stakes. It also means less control, less say in how a company is run, and less voice in its future, which could be an IPO, a sale to a strategic buyer, a merger, an acquisition of another company, or shutting down. In my experience, the loss of control is often what disappoints and frustrates founders most. Entrepreneurs are driven by more than money. Vision and purpose are what propel them to attempt the improbable and to keep going on a path that is challenging at best. Entrepreneurs aren't doomed to dilution and disappointment. There is more than one way to finance growth, and that's what I mean when I say all money is not created equal. The disparity in what different forms of financing can mean has profound implications for founders. Yet too little is known about all the forms of financing. Venture capital garners the most attention and share of mind, and it is the primary form of financing after a very early point in a company's life cycle. But venture capital isn't the only choice, and it may not be the optimal one, especially at each step it's available. My goal in writing this book is to help founders understand the various options for financing and how each could impact their business. To people outside the somewhat cloistered world of Silicon Valley, the multi-million, sometimes billion-dollar figures that get thrown around are unimaginable. I'm using Silicon Valley, not just literally but also figuratively, as it's as much a specific place as a stand-in for anywhere that has a vibrant innovation ecosystem. New York, Seattle, Boston, Austin, etc. But these valuations aren't arbitrary. They're based on sophisticated methodologies that take into account intellectual property, current revenue, projections about growth and scalability, future profitability, and risk. Risk is how venture capitalists justify getting so much equity, the amount of risk they take on being proportional to the potential reward. That's a fair point. But making sure investors who take risk early on get handsomely rewarded and allowing entrepreneurs to keep more control of their companies is not an either-or proposition. This isn't a criticism of venture capitalists or the fundamentals of the venture capital model. Many of the companies that have changed the way we live, work, communicate, and function in every aspect of our lives, individually and collectively, in business to business, B2B, and business to consumer, B2C, would not have succeeded without venture capital. That's especially true of companies that have been formed within the past 30 years. Venture capitalists are essential to the success of the U.S. innovation ecosystem, not only because of the money they provide, but also for the business acumen, connections, and cachet they bring to fledgling companies. For many years I was a venture capitalist, so I say this with conviction. Forbes put me on their Midas list of the most successful VCs several years running. My former colleagues and I did work I am proud of. I loved sitting on the boards of startup companies and helping entrepreneurs succeed. There was a rush knowing that the businesses we were financing could make a real difference. But along the way, I started to see that there was another way to help startups get much-needed capital, and that's through debt. Debt can take several forms. It can be a loan against accounts receivable and/or inventory, an asset-based loan, ABL, an advance on predictable revenue, such as monthly recurring revenue, MRR, a percentage of future, less predictable revenue, a revenue-based loan, RBL, or in the form of venture debt, loans to venture-backed companies that have yet to reach profitability. This can happen at almost any stage at which a company would consider taking venture capital. My company, Runway Growth Capital, makes loans to later-stage, pre-profit companies. Using debt as an alternative to, or in conjunction with, raising additional venture capital is an unfamiliar concept to many people, and consequently, it isn't used often enough. To be clear, venture capital and venture capitalists, i.e. VCs, refer to people providing equity to startups in exchange for an ownership stake in the company. Venture debt and venture lenders refer to providing loans, which result in less dilution. Debt, like just about any other financial instrument, can be a lever, used to propel something forward, or it can be a hammer, brought down with enough force to be destructive. Taking debt at the appropriate time, under the right terms, from someone you've vetted as carefully as they vetted you, can open a world of possibilities for you and your business.